thank you for being here, and we really do appreciate the great work you're doing. One of the things that we hear about as we're out and about is that sometimes folks aren't in the office. Are we back at, what kind of strength are we back at? Are people still working from home, or what percentage are in the office? And
that's a really great question, Senator Boozman, and it's something that we are working carefully to make sure that we're finding the right balance. As you know, for our state and area offices, it's crucial to have people out. That means both being in the office, but also so many of the meetings happen at a local town council meeting or meeting with a local nonprofit. In fact, a lot of our work is on the road in order to meet and work with the people that we see. So for our state and area offices, they're eligible to telework, but they aren't eligible to work remotely because it is a demand of the job to be able to be out and be accessible. So it's something that we will continue to do as we identify also places where maybe we can reach the community better by being out in community more as opposed to being behind a desk. Sometimes...
Well, so they're eligible to telework, but they're not eligible to work remotely?
Folks that are in state and area offices, correct, sir.
Okay. So they're in the office and they're out and about. Very good. Thank you. The other thing is, and I'm so glad that you really emphasize the ability to simplify the application process. And you talked a lot about that, listed it as one of your, and that's something else that we hear a lot about. I guess what I'm asking is, we'd like to help you if we need to help you with that, but it is a problem. I don't know. An interesting statistic would be what percentage of applications that you get are written by grant writers, and I would think it's pretty high. That's something we really need to fix. The communities that we're talking about in Arkansas, we've got 75 counties, 52 or 53 of them lost population. They don't have a whole lot to begin with, and then you start losing those turnback dollars. There's simply not money. There should, they're leaving a lot on the table because they can't afford to come up with those kind of funds for people like that, or they don't have access to them, period. So is that something that we're really, I guess what I'd like to know is what percentage now, and then I'd like to see that percentage drop dramatically in the next cycle.
I will follow up with you. I'm not sure if it's something that we ask on every application, but I will follow up with you to see if it is. We certainly know that it happens a lot, and it's also speaks to the level of competition for these grants, right? Communities that have the ability to compete are hiring grant writers, and that makes it even harder for folks who are unable to do so. REAP is an example where a lot of folks depend on a grant writer to write those, and these are for farmers, right? This isn't a large high-speed internet project, for example. But I recently heard about a local farmer who applied for REAP, didn't get it because he didn't have a grant writer. But it was somebody from the local state office who called and said, hey, I noticed you didn't get it. Do you want to talk through the application? And by getting that readout, he was then able to go back and apply again without a grant writer and get it. Now, that shouldn't be a rare story,
right,
but it takes the support from folks on the ground to be able to make that happen. There's also a balance when, I think we'll probably talk about meat and poultry processing, for example. Those were tough applications. They included, for example, a feasibility study, because we've had a lot of questions from Congress about how do we make sure that these are going to last longer than 10 years. So that sometimes the complexity that we're asking for in an application is a response to conversations in Congress about making sure that our investments are worthwhile.
Right. Again, the bottom line is that and I know you agree with this totally. I think that's a great story, and that's how it ought to be all the time. But sadly, people are busy, and it doesn't get done. So hopefully we can help you, because that is a major problem. Very quickly, tell us, there's all kinds of money for broadband floating around out there. You administer a particular portion of that. How are you all working in conjunction with the others, not only in USDA but throughout the rest of the programs? How are you all coordinating so that we're doing the best job that we can to spend those dollars most effectively.
Very, very carefully. I mean, it takes coordination at every level, from participation in the weekly meetings with the White House to conversations between our chiefs of staff to figure out different timing for applications, for example, or how certain awards might impact our review of other awards, to also informational sessions to state broadband offices that are going to be receiving BEAD money from NTIA, as well as state legislators that are trying to figure out how to design their funds and fill some of the gaps that Reconnect might not fully address. So it is something that's a constant way of life in rural development, and something we'll continue to do.
Thank you.